Former LSU and stud D lineman in the SEC, Michael Brockers, will join the show today. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. Adam Breneman from CBS Sports will join us to talk some big picture college football stuff. Former LSU stud and first-round pick, champion with the Los Angeles Rams, Michael Brockers will join us. Great personality. He's got a new podcast out there, so we'll chat with him. And also a little later in the show, how about Kevin Austin? Not an SEC guy, former Notre Dame wide receiver, now playing with the New Orleans Saints. We got his thoughts on Radio Row Week about Brian Kelly and can LSU win a national championship with Brian Kelly. Interesting perspective from a guy who was coached by Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Thanks for checking out Locked On SEC. I am Chris Gordy. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to Everydayers for free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, first up today, our sit-down interview with Adam Breneman. He was there on Radio Row in New Orleans, and we're able to sit down with him and talk some college football topics. Newsflash, he's not the biggest fan of the SEC, but we got him to say some nice things about the conference. And by the way, quick disclaimer, for those watching on YouTube, our video had some technical issues, so we did not have video of the interview, but we got the audio still of the interview. So without further ado, our sit-down interview with Adam Breneman of CBS Sports. Brought along here from Radio Row here in New Orleans ahead of the Super Bowl. And I love talking college. I'm a college guy. And when they said Adam Breneman was available to do a segment, I said, we got to get Adam on. Welcome in, man. How are you?
Appreciate having me on. So this is craziness out here, huh?
It's pretty crazy.
New Orleans, got to love it.
I've been coming to these for over a decade. It's funny, too, because I go to SEC Media Days every year. And SEC Media Days is like this scaled down a little bit. This is like SEC Media Days on steroids.
No doubt.
So it's a little bit more extreme. But talk to me a little bit about you, man. You've been blowing up in the football universe, worked with CBS Sports for years and all this. Talk a little bit about what's your journey's been like these last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been craziness. I mean, it's grown a lot. It's all started with my social media content, you know, doing videos on X, TikTok, Instagram, everything about college football, and it's grown to my podcast, which I just started working with Front Office Sports on. You mentioned CBS and calling games on TV, which I loved. You know, that's live TV is the closest you get to actually playing the game, actually being your heart rate's up when you're going on air. So I've loved that and doing a bunch of different shows. Yahoo Sports you mentioned, so it's been great for me. It's about I love college football, I love media, I love the business aspect of it as well, and to be able to merge all them together into the career I'm doing now has been really awesome, rewarding, and it's grown fast. I think people will love I try to bring the authentic nature of the kind of inside look at the part of coaches and fans and what it's like as a player, a coach, and media that fans don't normally see.
Talk to me a little bit about the landscape of college football. Do you like where it's
Where
at
do you want
right
to start?
now? I mean, we got 12-team playoff. We've got NIL, all this. I mean, are we in a good space?
Yeah. I'll start with this. I think the sport of college football has never been better than it is right now. The sport is at an all-time high from viewership. There's a reason that a regular season college football game gets better TV ratings than the NBA Finals. It's because the product is really good. That doesn't mean there's not issues, though. And a lot of the issues stem from NIL and the transfer portal combined. What's going to happen on July 1st, though, is that the House settlement's going to kick into college athletics, where every college athletic program now will be able to pay their players a maximum of $20.5 million a year in revenue sharing. And what that means is now there is a standard across the sport, across the college athletic system of how much you can pay your players. They now are going to be abided by contracts, where the issue with college before was you got all this NIL money, but none of it's contracted. The players can leave whenever they want. There's nothing to hold the players or the coaches or the schools accountable. Now it'll be standardized, much more like the NFL has with a salary cap and contracts. So I think we're in a good spot. Listen, at the end of the day, the players getting paid is a good thing for the sport. It's a good thing for America. It's been a business for everyone but the players for a long time. It's about time it's a business for the players too.
Sure, no doubt. Do you subscribe to the SEC is dead, the SEC is dying?
I mean, the SEC is not dead, it's not dying. I do think that you look at the results on the field, and the Big Ten was a better conference last year. That's just the truth. You
a
look
little
at
more top heavy though, right?
But you look at the national champion. You look at who was in the playoff. You look at those top heavy teams. Yes, but like that's what we're judged on, right? You can make the argument maybe Purdue is worse than any SEC team, but let's talk about the top teams in college football. You had Ohio State. You got Indiana, who was undefeated till lost to Ohio State. You have Penn State, who made the semifinals. I mean, you got the big dogs in there who were the best teams in the country were from the Big Ten. So I think that's the reality. Now, is the Big Ten as good from the top down as the SEC is? No, I don't think they are. From the middle tier teams, like Rutgers would not beat. Would not beat some of the middle tier SEC teams. It's going to keep being a battle. And I will say this: the days of the SEC being the long and away premier conference in the sport, that's just not true anymore.
Yeah.
The Big Ten is right there. We could argue all day about who's better, the middle tier, the top tier. The SEC is not long and away better than the Big Ten like it might have been 5 years ago.
SEC environments, though, road environments, maybe a little bit tougher?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit tougher. I mean, some of those, again, I think the middle-tier teams in the SEC have better fan bases, more resources, better recruiting bases than the Big Ten does. That's just, I mean, you've been to a Rutgers game before? I mean, not exactly an electric environment.
Never been.
And no interest, right?
Piscataway? Is that where they are? I don't even know
no
where
interest, I'm sure. So, yeah, it's not comparable from that standpoint. But, I mean, again, the top tier of the Big Ten, you got the whiteout at Beaver Stadium. You got the shoe at Ohio State. I mean, you got now with USC and Oregon in the playoff, number one team in the country going to the whole thing. I mean, Oregon and playing there at night is one of the most challenging environments in the sport. So I think the top of the Big Ten is as good as it gets in the country.
Forget who's around them. I can give you one quarterback next year. Who you're rolling with, Garrett Nussmeier or Arch Manning?
Arch Manning. I'm going with Arch Manning. I think he's going to be number one pick in the draft next year, and I think what he can do with his legs, and that's the part that surprised me about Arch, is how dynamic he is running the football, how physical he is, the fact that he can create off schedule. When you think of Arch Manning, before I really watched him play a ton, I'm thinking a pocket passer that stands in the pocket, isn't mobile, just like Peyton, but he's not that. He's I don't want to call him a dual threat because that kind of is condescending to his passing ability, but he's a guy that can play multiple different styles at quarterback, and really playing quarterback in 2025 is as much like playing shortstop as it is anything else. So you're throwing from different arm slots, you're playing off balance, you're on the perimeter, you're creating with your legs, and that's what Arch Manning brings.
It's tough, though, because it was in small sample size. We're betting on upside and potential.
Correct.
As opposed to maybe a Lenore Sellers, who we've got a full year as a starter.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I love Lenore Sellers now. I mean, what Shane Beamer has done with him is remarkable. In a short period of time, he's as dynamic as they come in college football. I mean, he's a true Heisman candidate. I think Lenore Sellers is that good of a player and will certainly be an NFL quarterback.
DJ Lagway, another one we're betting on potential. I mean, there's guys, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to judge between what guys have done. I mean, Nussmeier just threw for 4,000 yards, but you're telling me Arch, who we saw 3 games, like.
I think my concern with Nussmeier is we have a sample size of Nussmeier, and I think he has played well. I think he is a good quarterback. Do I think he can put a team on his back and go win a national championship when he's forced to throw the football and forced to win the game with his arm? I don't think so from what I've seen. And we've seen him make too many mistakes in some of the critical moments of games that has come back to hurt him. Yes, he has produced a ton. Yes, he has a ton of yards. Yes, he has the experience. But listen, if you ask me if I'm starting a program today, who am I taking? I want Arch Manning.
It's put up or shut up time, though, for Brian Kelly, though, right?
No doubt. I mean, you have to. It's time to win. And I mean, how about Notre Dame being in the college football national championship after he leaves? Listen,
in fairness, though, they probably would have been there if he would have never left, though, right?
Agreed. But I think the narrative when he left was that he wanted to go somewhere where he could win a natty, and
the SEC got tougher.
He's got no doubt. Oh, certainly. He has the resources at LSU to do what he said he's going to do. Now he's got to go do it, and I think he's done a good job building that program. I like Brian Kelly. He recruited me to Notre Dame back in the day. I mean, I knew him well during that time. He is an acquired taste for a lot of recruits. He's different. He's a different type of head coach. He's different than James Franklin, who I was around. He's different than Bill O'Brien, who I played for. He's just a little bit more of a CEO type of coach than some of the other guys I've been around. I think a lot of guys love him. It doesn't work for some players. We've seen some of that off the field stuff, but it's time to win.
He is Adam Breneman. Hopefully you enjoyed a little break here, not talking NFL and Super Bowl, talking some college with us.
It's been good. I appreciate having me on.
Appreciate it, man. We'll be right back after this. All right, thanks again to Adam Breneman of CBS Sports joining us there. Coming up next, our sit-down conversation with Michael Brockers of LSU. And of course, Los Angeles Rams played alongside Aaron Donald for many years. He's got a new podcast out. It's great talking with him. I think you guys are going to enjoy the conversation. That is coming your way next, right here on Locked On SEC. First, want to remind you guys about our friends over at Factor. Look, if you've been looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. You will love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. You can try their Protein Plus meals, packed with flavor, will keep you full throughout the day. Their convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off. Use our code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That is code, again, write it down, LockedOnCollege50 OFF at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Definitely go check them out. All right, run along here to Locked On SEC, and one of our fun interviews from Radio Row Week. We were not able to bring you guys just yet, but bring it to you today. Michael Brockers, former LSU defensive lineman, played under Les Miles there at LSU. Was his last game of his career was played in the Superdome the night that they did not cross the 50-yard line, lost to Alabama and A.J. McCarron and company in that national championship game. But he would go on to great success with the Los Angeles Rams, playing alongside Aaron Donald, and playing for titles with the Rams and having a nice career there. But really good interview with Michael Brockers. Really like him a lot. He's got a new podcast out. So here is our conversation with Michael Brockers. We're all along here from Radio Row, and always fun to talk with current players, former players, guys who have been in the trenches and been there, done that. And a guy who is a Houstonian. Mm-hmm. He is an LSU Tiger. Mm-hmm. He's basically checking all the boxes. Like, this is basically my family right here. Right. Michael Brockers joining us right now. Brock, what's going on, man?
Man, going good, man. Trying to get on. I'm on your side of things now, man. I'm doing a little media, got a little podcast set up, So this is 2 years in a row for me. So I'm excited, man.
I love it too. You get to kind of be yourself on these things, right? Like, it feels like when you're playing and you do media interviews and stuff, you got to be so buttoned up, and you can't say the wrong thing and all this kind of stuff. Now you can kind of let loose, right?
Absolutely. Because you're getting coached up on how not to say this, how to say this. You're pissed off after losing the game, and they're coming and putting the mic in your face. Like, how do you, now you can just say everything you wanted to say. You try not to disrespect anybody, hurt nobody's feelings, but hey, the stories need to be told, right?
Seriously, it's been you had a heck of a run, man. I'm looking back there. It's crazy to think you were in the 2012 draft, because it feels like it was yesterday, and now it makes me feel old and you feel old to say 13 years ago you were drafted. But
I mean, it doesn't feel like it was a long time ago, but it was a long time ago. There's some old guys in that draft that I was in, man. And some of the guys, I was trying to think, is anybody still playing?
Okay, we're gonna look this up
from 2012.
Yeah, we gotta look this up, because it's like the Tom Brady's and those kind of guys that last like 15 plus years.
Those are unicorns, though. Let's be real. Like, that's not happening every day.
Even Aaron Donald, you played with, walked out on top. Like, he could have kept going. So, take me through, what was that like when you first got drafted by the Rams, and went into an interesting spot at an interesting time.
So this is 2011. We lose to Bama in the Superdome. Yes, so we lose here in New Orleans. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with New Orleans. So we lose here, and then immediately I go into the draft. So I go into the draft. I get my draft. The draft grade back, and it was like low first round and second round. So I go into the draft. The whole time I don't know if I'm getting drafted. Let me be honest with you, Chris. We go and say we declare for the draft, but we don't know if we're going to get drafted or not. We just declare. So I'm working out. I go to combine. I don't run really well at the combine because I had a hamstring issue, but everybody pressured me, they tell you, if you have any issues, don't run. But all the GMs are there, and they all hit you with the same. Everybody's here. You sure you don't want to run? Everybody can get your time here.
You don't even need to do your pro day. Just do this.
Just run, So I ran slow, went back to LSU. I ran a little faster. And draft day, I get invited to New York. I do all the events at New York. And as I continue to say, I don't know that I'm getting drafted, Chris. I don't. I know I'm a pretty good player, but I don't know.
You might be the guy they're bringing back to the green room,
right.
like, hey, you want to hang around tomorrow?
You know what I'm saying? So, the whole time it's like it's nerve-wracking, but, I'm a believer, man. I have a lot of faith, and, I just went in there knowing that, I wouldn't be here if he didn't want me to be here. So that was my whole process going into it, and luckily, the St. Louis Rams found some interest in me.
I forgot it was St. Louis.
It was St. Louis. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
It was St. Louis that drafted me at the 14th pick in 2012, and that was a Jeff Fisher-led team, and I loved it. I love being there. That team, still the guys, Chris Long, Kendall Langford, Robert Quinn, those guys, we still have a group chat now that we constantly, contacting. So I cherish those moments very dearly.
Wasn't our guy T-Bob with you guys in training camp?
T-Bob was with us in training camp, and me and T-Bob played against each other at LSU. So this is family. I mean, honestly, being in New Orleans feels like home. I'm gonna be honest with you. Mm-hmm.
T-Bob's most famous college moment. Do you remember what it was?
I don't.
Against Tennessee.
Okay.
Clock's ticking down. Time's about to expire.
Yes.
We're running new personnel on the field. Wide receivers, Tennessee, Derek Dooley, they're confused. They don't know what's going on. Too many men on the field for Tennessee. You get one more untimed snap.
Yes.
It was all because T-Bob snapped the ball. Now, Jordan Jefferson wasn't ready for it, but because he snapped that ball, it was a penalty on the defense.
That's awesome.
Iconic moment.
That's an LSU moment that we probably hold dear, and he holds dear.
Well,
I snapped the ball illegally.
That was going to be a disastrous Les Miles loss is what it was going to be, but it turned out to, I don't know, Les had this weird thing that just miraculous things happened with him.
He
sometimes.
Had great players. Let's be honest. He had great players.
It was a hell of a recruiter, and recruiting in the state of Louisiana, it was always like shooting fish in a barrel. All right, we're looking at the history. Okay, Andrew Luck retired.
Yes.
RG3 retired. Luke Kuechly retired. Stephon Gilmore maybe still hanging around?
Stephon Gilmore is still playing.
He's still playing.
He's holding true.
Okay. Gosh, but I'm looking down this list. There's a lot of guys that have hung it up and no longer around. That's wild. So you're not that old.
I'm not that old. I'm not that old. But, I feel good because I still can walk and I'm limber. And
there you go.
The league didn't take, everything out of me, so I'm good.
I'm a big college guy. I love talking college stuff. Take me back. So you played for Les Miles. Take me back. Give me a good recruiting story of him coming and sitting on your couch and trying to get you to LSU.
I'm going to be honest with you. The greatest moment for me is Les Miles comes to my school. He doesn't come to the house. He comes to my school, and he's walking through our hallways, and nobody realizes who he is. Nobody. At my school was inner city. We didn't have a lot of athletes come out of there, so they didn't really understand the dynamic of Les Miles is walking around your school. So he sat down, ate with me. Little did he know I bleed purple and gold, so I knew I was going to LSU before. I knew I was going to LSU before he even got there. So,
and this is right after the time you just had Glenn Dorsey and Tyson Jackson and all these big time guys.
Yeah, so these are legends that that I looked up to before I went to LSU. So I'm looking at that like, man, that's going to be me one day. That's going to be me walking across that draft stage with coming from out of LSU and. It happened, man. So that's awesome.
Les was a little quirky. Did he ever say anything quirky to you?
Not really, man. I'm be honest with you. Les was a manager, more than a coach.
Yeah.
And this is no shot at him. This is strictly business. He was a manager of all his position coaches, and then if he felt like there was a lack in a position coach, he'll come over there, and then everybody button up real head coach over here. But he was a manager of his coaches, so he kind of stayed out the way a lot. But, when it was time to get some screen time, he was eating grass and he was the Mad Hatter and all that. So, yeah, but I enjoyed my time at LSU.
Who was your defensive coordinator? Let's try to remember.
Chief.
Chavis?
Yeah, Chief.
Okay, yeah, and John Chavis been at so many different SEC schools along the way and big stops. And, yeah, that was a guy that – it seemed like the linebackers got better when he got there. Like, then you started this run of all these really good linebackers, too.
Yes. When I played with Kevin Minner, so that was my linebacker. Lamine Barrow. We had a lot of guys at that linebacker position that did really well.
More with Michael Brockers in just a second, but I want to remind you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. And look, whether it's college hoops or NBA action, when the game tips off, all the action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you could stay in on the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. They got tons of different stuff you get in the app. It's going to make it easy for you to use whether you win. And when you win, you can get paid instantly. Super easy to use at FanDuel. And you can sign up today over their website at FanDuel.com. Then you can download the app and start making all your picks right there on the app. Very easy to use. Right now, new FanDuel customers, if you've never signed up before, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com, get signed up, join today, and head to FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Go make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. What's the one game that sticks out in your memory that's like, that's the game I'll never forget?
In the LSU game?
Yeah, in college.
Oh, man, that LSU versus Bama in Bama game of the century.
Yeah, forgot about that one.
Oh, my gosh. The atmosphere of that game.
Like 24 professional football players playing on the field that day?
Like, literally, I think it was 11 first-rounders on the field, or like 20 first-rounders or something like that on the field. Because we definitely had like 6 or 7 just on our defense playing. So that game was an amazing game to play. Yeah,
and that's what I remember. You guys win that game, and you're like, "We're done with them. Let's get them out."
We got that whole season was building up until Bama, and we're like,
well, and freaking Justin Blackman, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. If they don't lose that game, whatever it was, a Thursday night game, it would have been LSU versus Oklahoma State,
and we would have
y'all would have beat them.
Yes,
and it would have been. Instead, you get a rematch with old Saban.
And it's hard to beat him twice. And I don't think a lot of people beat him twice. And they won. It was crazy. The funny story. So they were doing like the showcase for like announcing who we're playing, right? And they got all the whole team in the meeting room, the whole team meeting room. And Les Miles like, okay, be excited when they tell us, because we knew kind of we had to play Bama. And everybody's like, they come on TV. It's like, LSU, we're finding out, who you're playing. You're playing Bama. Yeah. And everybody was like, yay. We weren't really excited.
It's like the March Madness when they reveal, like, who you're playing. It's like St. Bonaventure, and it's like, you're playing top seed Duke. You're like, oh, God. Well, I guess. We'll try. We'll see what we can do. What I remember about that game, though, A.J. McCarron, the first time around, they were running the ball. They didn't throw it much. And in the championship, they flipped the script. They came out throwing.
Yes.
And y'all were like, oh, crap.
Right. So, you think, a team's going to, Eddie Lacy and all these other big backs, they'll run the ball. And they came out and, like you say, flipped the script on us. And, man, hats off to them, man. They did a great job that day.
One of your college teammates, Tyrann Mathieu, still playing in the league.
Yes, Tyrann Mathieu still playing, Let me see. He's the youngest guy besides, like, Odell and, Jarvis Landry. I don't think he's playing anymore. Odell, it's not much, not many.
Did you think playing in that era, though, that we'd fast forward 15 years ago, LSU's got 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks, right?
Quarterbacks.
Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You never thought LSU would have, recruited good quarterbacks, but they found a way. And in 2019, actually, because that was the national championship here versus Clemson, all the guys come back, right? And literally they won that game, and I felt like a relief of the weight of that Bama game coming off of me. I don't know why it was, bro. Like I felt like this team finished it for us, you know. like our loss isn't. We didn't lose yet, you know. We just didn't win.
No, it's true. And now LSU's in a good spot with Nussmeier's back, and they got the #1 portal class, and Ole Miss is there. Do you like the landscape of college football now? We got expanded playoff. We got NIL. So, by the way, you were a little early, man. If NIL had been a thing, you'd have been eating.
I would have been eating, but I don't think I would have been as hungry. I'm be honest with you. You know, I think we were a different generation for on purpose. You know, I don't think you could have gave my class, any of my teammates, that much money. We would have been all over the place.
We could have put you on like a Raising Cane's billboard or something, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't been able to find me at class.
That's what I was telling somebody the other day. They were talking about when they played like players skipping class and all. I was there with Big Fave and a lot of those guys. And I had a class with Early Doucette, and Early never came to class, or at least this class. I can't speak the rest of his career. But I remember I always see one of the assistant coaches would come, and you see his eyeballs in the window, and everybody calling everybody, get here, coach is looking for play. It's like, or you can just come to class, guys. It's pretty easy. Taking like 2 classes a day.
Slack,
come
man.
on.
We're going to find a way. Because literally, bruh, when we go to LSU, you go to play football. You don't go to class. I mean, it's not. That's the sad thing, but it was high priority to make workouts, you know.
Right. Well, look.
If it was a workout or a class workout, tips to scale.
Look, football's a little bit more important, all right? For guys like you, it's what's going to pay the bills. It's good to have the degree, though. It's not a bad thing to have.
I still need it. I still want it. I'm going to get it. But, you know, as far as when in school, I was definitely – you know, it was time to play some football.
One of the guys I got to know over the years, Sean Jones, played on that Packers team back in the late 90s next to Reggie White. And, I mean, he used to tell sometimes they would double or triple team Reggie, and it would open up sacks for him and all that. For you, what was it like getting to play with a guy like Aaron Donald who drew so much attention?
I loved it because he made me a better player. You know, watching him, you know, it wasn't the things he said, it was the things he did. He led by his actions, you know. He did a lot of extra work. He did a lot of extra, you know, things to make himself better. And I think watching him and seeing him, like, we didn't want to let him down. I think one of my teammates was like, I think the biggest thing about playing with AD is we didn't want to let him down because he was doing so much. He was, you know, putting his all into the game, and you just knew, like, man, I would hate to let him down by not having my part, you know, doing my part. So I think that was the biggest thing, was not wanting to let him down and just, you know, make sure if he was dominating, I would go do my best to be dominating too.
Yeah, and especially if it's like, hey, man, they were double teaming me. What were you doing?
Right, exactly. if you know that.
You had single guy in front of you.
So I better make a play, you know.
Talk to us about what you got going now. I know you got the podcast and everything. What prompted this to go, all right, I'm done playing. Let me move to the media world.
Just being a serial entrepreneur. I like media. I like radio. And podcast is a little in between of radio and, you know, being in the mainstream media. So when you have your own platform, you can kind of do what you want. I didn't want to be like an employee. I think that was my biggest thing. I didn't want to be an employee and have my message or whatever I wanted to talk about skewed to a different, you know, viewpoint. I wanted to have original, authentic stories. But me, man, I'm doing a lot of entrepreneurial things. Like I have a lounge in Houston called Quad Houston. I'm doing real estate. I'm a real estate investor. Have a couple of properties out there. Have the podcast. Have my own brand. I got my brand on, Brock Brand Clothing.
Nice.
I have like a whole Brock universe of stuff, you know. I just, you know.
Well, I'm a 2X. So
for sure. We got to get you something. I'm betting on myself, y'all. You know, that's, you know, if I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna work hard for me.
Yeah. What's the best guest you've had on the podcast so far?
Best guest? All my guests are the best guests.
Okay.
Come on,
who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite?
Somebody you really enjoy talking to?
I love talking to my ex-teammates. I had AD on, and we did his at his penthouse. We were cold, but how much we laughed because of the old stories. We were warm. I enjoyed, you know, that, just having him on, you know, not having to be, a football player. Like, you're retired now. Let's really get the real scoop on how you're feeling. So I enjoy it. AD was probably my best, guest on the show, just because that's my brother, and we can collab and do things like that.
It's crazy to go out on top too. I mean,
Yes.
I think back to Patrick Willis. I mean, guys leaving while you're at your peak, you could get 5-10 more years, but it's like,
Right.
let's walk out on top.
Right.
Not a bad way to go.
I mean, because he did it. He won the Super Bowl. He gave it another shot. Didn't turn out too well. And I just think he was just done,
Yeah.
But to go out and know that you went out your way, I think that's a dope thing about it.
It's been a blast, man. It's great catching up with you. And
Yes, sir.
congrats on all the success, man. And keep it up. And I'm going to get that T-shirt. I'll wear it on my show. We'll
Yes,
promote
sir.
it.
Appreciate it,
Michael
Chris.
Brockers.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after this. All right. Thanks again to Michael Brockers for joining us. Before we get out of here, I do want to bring you a couple minutes. We were able to sit down with current New Orleans Saint and former Notre Dame wide receiver Kevin Austin. He's a guy who played for Brian Kelly and had some issues there at Notre Dame, but overcame them and ended up going pro, went undrafted, but got his thoughts on Brian Kelly. And, as a former Notre Dame guy who, Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU, saying that, didn't think you won a title at Notre Dame. Notre Dame just playing for a national championship. Pretty interesting perspective from Kevin Austin. So here was our sit down with Kevin Austin. I'm sure probably, and I've read your story a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Brian Kelly. What was it like playing for Brian Kelly?
Oh, no, I love Brian Kelly.
Okay.
He was a great coach. I'll definitely say that he was like one of those like demanding head coaches, which was really good for like young men, I would say. Just understanding like he wanted us to be successful no matter what.
What was it like day in and day out, though? I mean, was he hard? Was he kind of put his arm around you guys at times, or what was it like?
I feel like he understood when he needed to do both. I would definitely say he was very like strict about what he wanted, and he was very hard about certain things. But at the same time, we all understood that to be successful in life and in football, these are things that we have to do. So we understood it. It was one of those give and take type of things where we understood it, but sometimes we didn't always agree. But we understood what he was doing was the right thing.
Were you already declared when he made the jump, or what was the timeline there?
No, so he left LSU to go to LSU the last game. So that last game in the regular season, we were going to play in a not conference.
Could have made the playoffs.
Yeah, we could have made the playoffs, but we didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
And we just played in the regular, I think the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
And he left then, and I didn't declare yet, but I kind of knew throughout the year that I was leaning towards leaving.
Were you like, the hell with him while you're leaving Notre Dame?
No, we all understood. Like, everyone makes a decision for their families.
Yeah.
All those different reasons. So we couldn't be mad. Obviously, selfishly, we're a little bit mad because that's our head coach that we've grown to love. But at the same time, we understand that everyone has to make a decision.
I like how you said we're playing like the Fiesta Bowl or something. That only was like one of your biggest games.
I know.
100-yard receive a day, right?
Yeah.
What was that? Were you like that day? You're like, oh, this is what I need to put on film to
100%.
show the scouts?
100%. I definitely knew that, like, going into that game, that it's going to be my last game in college. So I definitely want to put something on to put a performance out there for teams.
One more on Brian Kelly. Do you think he can win at LSU?
I think he has the players to win for sure, and he definitely can win. There's a lot of good teams out there right now, especially in the SEC too. So I definitely see it definitely not going to be easy.
Yeah, ironically, he says I'm going to leave to go to LSU to try to win a championship. But the SEC's so tough now. Now it's like maybe you should have stayed at Notre Dame. We've interviewed Marcus Freeman a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I just love the guy. Is that kind of? I know you didn't get to play for him, but looking back, is it like that's a guy you would have liked to have played for?
Oh yeah, for sure. He was there the 2 years, but as a
that's true. Yeah,
defensive coordinator, and just him being around, it was just always you could tell he was a great coach, a great kind of leader in that way. So when that opportunity presented itself, even I was one of the people that told our AD that I would love to see Coach Freeman get the job because he's such a great coach and a great person.
All right, thanks again to Kevin Austin, former Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Saints wide receiver this past year in the NFL. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Our thanks to our guests, Adam Breneman, Michael Brockers, and Kevin Austin. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And hey, come on back and check us out next week as we will get back into the daily grind of talking all things SEC. Of course, we'll have some more SEC hoops news and hopefully some more college nuggets as well. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys next week.